for a series that is known for big monster battles for many years, and how this has been structured and all that stuff, this show could be seen as a gamble. It really could, because for how this series has been, I don't know how this could work. I really don't. And it's a risk. It's a risk that maybe it's worth taking. Who knows?
If you come with me, you'll know everything, I promise.
Monarch-Legacy of Monsters was created by Chris Black, as well as Matt Fraction, starring Anna Sawai, Kiersey, Clemons, Ren Watanabe, Maria Yamamoto, Holms, show Tippett, Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell, and Elisa Lasowski. So Monarch-Legacy of Monsters is, of course, the latest in the Monsterverse that Legendary has been putting out since the 2014 Godzilla movie. And so with this is focusing on something that I think a lot of people who have watched the Monsterverse films can agree on for the most part, and this is centering on human characters. If you're a Monsterverse fan, I think we can all agree that the human characters are the weakest parts of these movies. There's nothing to them. I mean, of course, there's Bryan Cranston and also Ken Watanabe as well, but even then, it's not enough, you guys. It really is not. And what happens to those two characters, I won't say. All I'll just say is underwhelming to see. But otherwise, not much in terms of characters that I think a lot of people were rooting for, or even nevertheless like focusing on. They don't care about them at all, which is funny because with those movies you would think they would. But this show is striving to be more focused on the humans and less on the Titans, giving them a backseat to just the human storyline. You know, again, this could be seen as a gamble. It could be seen as a risk. I mean, you really want to risk it for making a human story within this Monsters universe? I mean, sure, you can try it, but I don't know how well this is going to go. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, set after the battle between Godzilla and the Titans, revealing the monsters are real, follows one family's journey to uncover its buried secrets and a legacy linking them to Monarch. I'm going to be honest with you guys, this could be seen as a risk. I've been enjoying the Monsterverse films, but even I have to agree the human characters are the weakest parts of those movies. I don't know how this could go. I really don't know. This is an Apple TV Plus exclusive, so this could be seen as also risky for Apple to do. I mean, I don't know how this could go. Well, I am happy to report, after watching all 10 episodes, it works. I don't know how, but it does. Now, I do have my criticisms with the show, but for the most part, I think it succeeds in which it was striving to be. I am so surprised on how much this series really does feel like a continuation of this series, as well as being a continuation after Godzilla. I mean, and seeing the aftermath of that film and seeing how it then bridges the gaps to the other movies. So yeah, I really did find myself enjoying it. But here are some of the positives that I found. The performances of the cast, I think, really work for the show. I think they're all admirable. I think everyone puts in a lot of the effort. And that's why he plays Kate Randa, a school teacher from San Francisco who witnessed the events of Godzilla 2014 from her perspective and what she went through. And so you are following this character who is searching for her father. You're following her as she's uncovering these clues and finding out what happened to him and how this all connects to Monarch in some way. This character, you want a character that you can follow, that you can really empathize with. And for the most part, I think this character does succeed. For the most part, I think this is a character that is very level-headed, but also somebody who's traumatized from those events of G-Day, as the movies have designated the attack that happened in that movie. Yeah, she really plays Kate with somebody who, of course, is going through a lot, but is somebody who you're willing to follow, and you really care about her. You care about her goal, her mission, what she is determining, what she is trying to do. You could tell how much she is really caring of finding the truth about all of it. And so I think she does a really good job, and I think this is a protagonist that I think really helps to follow within this monsterverse, at the very least. You also have Kiersey Clemons playing the character May, who is somebody who has a mysterious past to them. Of course, when we first meet her, you don't know who she is. You just know that she, of course, is somebody who is skillful with computer hacking. To see her go from being confident in what she is doing and is so skillful and useful in that area to throughout this show, she feels completely out of her depth. She feels like she has no idea what she's getting herself into. I was kind of going back and forth with this character. I mean, this is a character that I think some people may find frustrating, but I found her to be captivating because what the backstory of her character and what she goes through, I think makes up for it, because it makes sense for some of the choices that she makes in the situation that she finds herself in. So yeah, I did find her really enjoyable, and I think Kiersey Clemons does a great job. Ren Watanabe playing Kentaro, who is Kate's half-brother, and the show explores on that dynamic of their father not being a good person and what he did to both of these families. Like, inexcusable. I think Kentaro is a very caring but also a stubborn type of character. Somebody who at first doesn't believe Kate, believes that everything she's doing is a lie and all that stuff, to being annoying, to somebody who is willing to, though, go along with her to find her father, their father, and explain to them, about this whole situation and what happened to him. Watabe also plays the character with admiration, somebody who, wants to be an artist. He's an upcoming artist, he wants to follow that. But he's also dealing with this idea of wanting to care about who his father was and what he means to him, but then also through Kate, understanding what it means to also be a brother. These three together, I think, work really well throughout the show, and I was pleasantly surprised on how much you really care about them as a whole. Marie Yamamoto plays Kiko, a scientist in the 50s, which the show, yes, goes back and forth on different time periods, and that explains also why. But she is somebody that works with Lee Shaw as well as Bill Randa. And I truly think that she plays Kiko with not just a woman having to operate in a man's world as a scientist, but also a Japanese woman, because of course this is set in the 50s, this is after World War II, so you are seeing a woman who not only has to deal with the fact that she has to rise in a world where there is mostly predominantly men. As we all know, men are the higher positions within that status, but also a Japanese woman. So a lot of people have this idea of who she is, when really she has to prove to them that she is not only capable of what she's doing, but she is very intelligent and she's courageous and empathetic as well. And so you get to see that through her, and I think she does a really good job of conveying this competent woman who knows what she is wanting and what she is looking for with regards to searching for these titans. I also think that Andre Holms playing Bill Randa, who, if people don't know, is actually John Goodman's character from Kong Skull Island. So this is a younger version of that character. But I would say it's a brief cameo, so don't expect anything big out of him. Andre Holmes plays his character as like an everyday man, somebody who really is trying to be this down-to-earth type of person while also doing this extraordinary things with hunting monsters and whatnot. And I think that is something that I think really makes you captivated towards him and a character that you want to follow. For somebody who, of course, isn't a huge badass and whatnot, you still like him because you still feel like this is a guy who just wants to be passionate about his work. And it makes you really excited seeing him. And I think Andre Holmes plays him really well. Joe Tippett plays Tim, who is a Monarch office worker who goes into the field, who's just trying to look for like some missing files, which then leads him into this whole encounter with Kate and Kentaro and May, and so that leads him into this whole conflict. And I think this is a character that is the same as Bill Randa. This is somebody who really cares about what he's doing, and what he cares about is not only protecting these kids, because Monarch is just filled with some people who just are doing things the wrong way or tackling situations not in the best way possible, but also caring about these titans, what these titans mean, what they matter to the world and what it means for researchers and scientists, and also preventing another disaster like 2014 Godzilla. And so, yeah, this is somebody who is like Randa in that he is an everyday man. He is somebody who you want to follow, but also somebody who is trying to do the right thing. He's not perfect at trying to achieve those goals, but he does have a good heart to him, and for that, I did find myself really liking Joe Tippett in the role. But let's talk about the two actors that have been promoted the fuck out of this show, and that is Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell. That's right, the Russells are here. Of course, Wyatt is playing the younger version of Lee Shaw from the 50s and 60s, and Kurt Russell is playing the present day version, because this show takes place in 2015, which is a year after Godzilla. So this show explores his time with not only just Bill and Kiko, but also with Randa kids as well as May. So I really do think that these two are not only phenomenal, these two just throughout the show, they compliment every time that Kurt Russell has some good genes, and goddamn it, if he doesn't have it, I don't know what is, because they look strikingly similar to each other. He is also one of the founding members of Monarch, as well as Kiko as well, and Bill. So yeah, it is crazy to me on how much this is a character that is, of course, a military character, but he is also a man who, yes, has to follow orders, but also wants to do right by his friends. He wants to be there for them and always be there in their field, in their research, and to help them out build Monarch together. And he's conflicted by that. And then, of course, you have both Wyatt, Yamamoto, and Holmes play really well off of each other. You can really tell that they are really good friends in this show, and you buy their relationship, you buy their chemistry, you buy admiration towards one another and their camaraderie. So for that, I really like them for that. Both Wyatt and Holmes have great romantic rapport with Yamamoto. The show also delves deeper into that, but their friendship is handled very well. And then, of course, you have Kurt Russell playing the older version, the present day version of this character, and I think he is playing this character that Wyatt is playing, but with somebody who has deep regrets, somebody who has faced a lot of problems with his past and how it was handled. And so you have a character that wants to right those wrongs. And I think his rapport with Sawai, Watabe, and Clemons, I think, are excellent. They play off each other really well, and for that, I really did find myself enjoying it. So overall, I think everyone of the performances are excellent. The direction on all the episodes, I think, is handled pretty well. I think they are consistent. I don't feel like there is a misstep in all the episodes. It doesn't feel like nobody is trying to be different with one episode and then the next is completely different. They're different enough in that they are seamless. There are moments throughout this show that it's so seamless, but you can feel like the directors really are putting their all into it, and having the actors have good camaraderie with each other and having a great rapport on set. I think the score is excellent, man. Composer Leopold Ross does a really good job at capturing the tone, the atmosphere of what this MonsterVerse is, primarily Godzilla 2014. I think he really does well at capturing what this series is, and in capturing that visceral tone that this show, I think, should have. And I think it does an admirable job of also at times bringing the horror out of this series. I mean, these are titans, but you also have some little creatures as well in this series, and I think it does really well by being infused into here. And for that, I think that the score lends itself very well, especially when it comes to the Titans. The Titan music is also really good in here, and it's a spectacle throughout. But speaking of spectacle, the cinematography is insane, guys. When streaming services say they can rival movies, this show, I believe, can rival movies, because holy crap, it surprises me that this is a streaming show, because I would have never have guessed that, because this show really captures what the movies do well, with not only the intensity, but also the scope of it all. I mean, Jean-Philippe Gassart, Chris Sager, and Sam McCurdy nail the best aspect of this MonsterVerse. And it does it so well that it doesn't feel distracting at all. It is done so incredibly well, and it is really beautiful throughout. But speaking of beautiful, the visuals, they're stunning. I mean, one thing that this MonsterVerse can do well with is capturing the detailing on these creatures. I mean, the visual effects are amazing here, man. Like I said, they rival the movies. They level the movies. It's incredibly surprising to me on how much they are able to capture the look and feel of how those movies are and putting them on streaming services. And yeah, the visuals throughout are incredibly amazing. The production looks amazing. Apple TV Plus is really going all in with this series. Like, they are throwing so much money, and I think the money goes to good use, because you can tell so much work went into this, and it pays off. And I think it is incredibly awesome to know that everything to production design, sets, lighting, as well as visuals and all of that is just incredible to me, that it shows that Apple TV Plus was confident that this show could work, and they were right. I also think the story is amazing. I mean, following these characters, these siblings nonetheless, was very interesting and very engaging. I mean, both Black and Fraction really wanted to make a show that makes you really care about these characters, and they succeed, man. I think they do a really good job of really making you feel for these characters and the situations that they find themselves in, as well as, like I said, bridging the gap of this series within the MonsterVerse. Although I will say, there is a bit of a gripe I have with this, and that is, and I guess this is a spoiler, so I'm just fair warning you. This show reveals that Kate, of course, was in a relationship with a female middle school teacher, and then, of course, at one point she cheats on her and all that stuff, and that's what decided her to go with the kids on the school bus, and that's what led her to having her encounter with Godzilla. I feel like there should have been more development with that, because I feel like if you have, of course, a gay character. I mean, of course, I am somebody who is... representation matters. I think it matters within our media as much as the world is progressing to a better place. There needs to be more to this. Like, I would like to know, like, what her family thought, what her mom or dad had felt, especially being a woman who is, of course, also of Japanese descent, and how that is viewed as well. But it just doesn't go anywhere as much. But it was not that big of a gripe to be, like, ruin the show. I'm just saying, it's just, it's there. In that, of course, yes, she is gay, but there was nothing much to it. They don't explore that much about it, so yeah, that was the disappointing part. That I hope that maybe season 2, maybe, because with what happens within this series between her and another character, I mean, that could work. But again, it only depends if there is going to be a season 2, because there may not be. Who knows? But I have to give big praise to this show with the pacing, the runtime, and the episode lengths, because this to me is what I think most streaming services need to go for. Like, sure, yes, I of course have seen a lot of shows on something like Disney Plus where there are, of course, shows that have longer episode lengths in terms of how many episodes there are. But lately, a lot of the times I see with not only just Disney Plus, but you also see that with even like something like, at times, like Amazon Prime, or even maybe like Hulu and stuff like that. A lot of the times have shows that don't have the episode lengths. But primarily I'm pointing the finger really at Disney Plus, because I had recently, if you had followed me on Instagram, I had reviewed Echo, and I had a problem, such a big problem with the episode lengths as well as its pacing and its runtime. This show to me is what I think most streaming services, but really Disney, needs to do. Because if you want to tell a story within a universe, this is how you do it. Because it is paced so well, and because of the episode lengths, that's what makes the runtimes for each of the episodes work. Because of those episode lengths, and the pacing throughout the show keeps you engaged and keeps you really on the edge of your seat and makes you really excited to see where this story goes. So yeah, I think for this show, 10 episodes was exactly the amount that this show needed, and it succeeds. It really does. Though this series is a success, I'm not gonna lie, I have my gripes with this series. Let's jump in now into the negatives. The father storyline. This is the setup for what this series goes for. I mean, this is what starts the journey off for Kate and her brother. And of course, you're following along until like a halfway point where something happens, and so because of that, they then kind of diverge to another plot, and it's almost like the father storyline just kind of is not really resolved. Like, sure, it still goes, and it's still there, but I don't feel like it has a resolution. It doesn't really end. It just kind of feels like it just kind of is just left unchecked, and just kind of feels like it almost like if there is a second season, they could close it off. But I really feel like this storyline, which started off really strong, just kind of fizzled out and kind of just didn't end, or at least this show. I am of the big belief of you can have one story arc, but it shouldn't be one that's like the main plot of the show that then has to be dragged out for a second season. Like, I do think that storyline should have been wrapped up in a way that could have ended that and then lead into other storylines, but instead this one just kind of fell to the wayside by the ending point. I also think that there are some moments, and this is where a lot of people will say, what? Really? Just hear me out. There's a lot of unbelievable and unnecessary moments. Now, when I say that, just know, I know I'm talking about Godzilla. I know I'm talking about King Kong, Ghidorah, Mothra. I understand what I'm getting into, people. And honestly, those aren't the problems I have. No. Like, them surviving Godzilla and all that stuff, that I have no problems with. Without a doubt, that is not my thing. However, though, there is a part of the show where characters are on a location, and summer promotion, I will say it's a snowy area. They end up somewhere in, like, the mountains, okay? These characters wouldn't have died from a Titan. I think these characters literally would have died these characters would have frozen to death. Like, these people must be so subhuman that they are able to survive the elements. Literally, a character gets their foot in ice water. It's freezing cold up there. They have no equipment of whatsoever. One character goes off on their own, and it leads to them, passing out and all that stuff. But they are able to keep going. I don't know how, but they managed to. And so, yeah, it's just stuff like that I just am like, for this series to be a little bit more grounded, a little bit more serious, or it would have thrown me off with how these characters survive the elements. I mean, it is crazy to me on how much that of anything that almost killed them, it would have been that. So, yeah, it's just, that was just the thing that was holding me back. And there is a moment near the end of the series, which, spoiler alert, if you don't want to be spoiled, skip to this time frame, so that way you won't know what happens, but either you've seen it or you don't care. Here it is. So, near the end of the series, both Kate, May, and Lee fell into a hole, which then leads into pretty much a realm that traveled through the entire Earth, quickly as possible. That's how they were able to, like, get there much faster than ever, and of course the movies explore that. They are met by Kiko, who not only fell in this pit many years ago with Lee and Bill witnessing her death, but she hasn't aged at all, and she believes that she was down there for like 57 minutes, which to her, that's nothing. But to us, that was a long time ago, because of course, she then finds Lee and all that stuff. But the thing that I found unbelievable was that when they find the landing ship that Lee had showed up with a crew to explore back in 1962, which then it's revealed that he got stuck down there for like only like 20 minutes, but when he gets back to Earth, that was 20 years. And he hasn't aged at all, and so it was 1982. So the thing that surprises me is that the ship that he arrived in, where they find him, is that it's still operational, it's still functioning. No Titans nor any sort of parts of the environment destroyed it. It still works. It's fully functional. That to me, I think, should have been a moment where they had to figure out how they were able to get back. I think that would have been much more satisfying, as well as interesting to see how they would creatively do that. Because it just felt coincidental that it just so happened to work. Because otherwise, that shit would not work at all. And then, of course, this is all happening at the end of the series, but there is a Godzilla versus Titan fight. Which, listen, I have enjoyed the fights. I always have. I always love that. That's why I go see those movies at the end of the day. I think most fans can agree with that. But as much as it was nice to see it, I feel like it was unnecessary. It's almost like Legendary went to these guys and said, you have to have a monster battle in here in some way, because otherwise audiences are not going to be interested. So they're like, alright, fine. So they wrote one in, and while it was fun, it was kind of unnecessary. It was almost like they just wanted to give fans just a moment to, at the very least, not only, I guess, somewhat throw attention, but at the end of the day, it was just there so that way fans could be like, alright, we got a Titan battle, thank God. For the most part, I really like this series. I was really digging it, and I am excited to see, hopefully, if they continue more with this, because I think they should. I think that this would be good, and it also works for Apple TV Plus. I mean, not only for, having the chance to make this series, but it will get people to really maybe take an interest in Apple TV Plus. I mean, shit, that was actually what convinced my dad to get Apple TV Plus, was this show. So yeah, so if they continue with this, or shows of this nature, of this feel and caliber, I think Apple TV Plus could really outdo themselves. So yeah, overall, guys, I really enjoyed this series, and I thought it had a great story and great performances from the cast and characters that you would follow. So yeah, I give Monarch-Legacy of Monsters an 8 out of 10. I highly recommend it if you ever get the chance. I know that there is usually a way of getting Apple TV Plus for free for like the first 3 months if you get if you get an iTunes gift card. I think you could use that to get 3-month free trial Apple TV Plus. And if you could, I highly recommend watching this series if you can, or if you own it, definitely check it out. I think you'll have a blast with it. Yeah, you guys, I'm actually going to be working on my review for Origin, which is Ava DuVernay's latest film that she released. Can't wait for that review. So yeah, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.